Welcome to the Greatness Garage, where small business owners come to get the tools and insights to work on their business, not just in it. To get more, check out the Greatness Garage on Facebook and join to become a member. All right, Greatness Garagers, welcome to another amazing session of the Greatness Garage interviews. Today I've got John Chmela here, and he's going to share with you some amazing common horse sense. You're going to love the fact that he's got knowledge, experience. He's got multiple industries to share with us, and it's going to be fun and amazing. John, welcome to the Greatness Garage.
Thanks, Brad. How can I serve your listeners today, or watchers? I should say.
Yeah, right. The first thing, give them a little taste of your journey, a little taste of where you got to where you are and who you are, and then we'll jump into some of that Power 7.
Yeah. So I am I'm a computer programmer by trade, personal development junkie. Got a degree in computer science and math back in the early 80s. I've been writing software for various companies through the decades. I worked with Bill Gates in 1998. I was actually, if you Google my name and Windows 98, me and a friend that I was working with, actually a quadriplegic, we were the focal point. We were the spokespersons for the launch of Windows 98. Wow. And I've had a very long and eclectic career of applying, of creating mostly computer software, but thinking way outside the box. So kind of my rule of thumb over the course of my career is, if I've seen it done before by anybody, don't do it. Because there's so many new ideas that kind of come down the pike. Yep. That I love that. Always just grab onto the ideas that I'm like, oh man, nobody's ever done this before. Facebook is a great example of that. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I did not invent Facebook.
Okay.
But Facebook is a good example of the kind of stuff that I do. So is Uber and Google and that kind of stuff. So, you know, your
motivation is really tied to that really pulls out into that intrigue and that passion. Yeah.
I'll tell you an interesting story. When I was a kid, I think I wanted to be an inventor at a very young age. And I remember my family on one of our vacations, they took us to the Thomas Edison Museum. And Thomas Edison, of course, invented the light bulb. But as we walked through the museum, he invented like the double sink. There was only one sink, and he said, no, you need two, one for Willis and one for Brian. I don't know who invented the triple sink, but probably some guy rides his coattails. But he invented like bicycles. I mean, there was a whole museum of things that he invented. That was his deal. And I remember thinking at that time, man, all the good inventions are already taken. I mean, not just the double sink, but it was like, you know, the electricity came out and there was like blenders and vacuum cleaners and televisions and all these cool things that required that. The motor came out and they built the car, and then they built the boat, and they built the plane, and then they built rocket ships. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Outdo a rocket ship? So I remember having this moment of poignant clarity of like, man, I was born too late to be an inventor. But then along came the internet. And probably whatever's next, AI or something. And what I didn't realize is that there is a whole plethora of new things to be invented. In fact, all the old stuff that was invented has to be reinvented and connected to the cloud or connected to each other. Or there's just better ways. The refrigerator was invented back when electricity came out, but the smart refrigerator is even a better invention. So now, at some point along my career of thinking up new cool things to create, I realized, wow, I wasn't born too soon. There's a lot of new ideas, and the new ideas are so much better than the old ideas. I don't know what you made. I don't know what Henry Ford made, you know, when he invented the combustion engine or whatever vehicles he was putting together. But I know he didn't make Google money. I know he didn't make Facebook money. I mean, these kids that are coming up with these ideas they're basically the Henry Fords of today.
Yeah.
But because you can deal with a global market and because you can fulfill instantaneously at no cost, it's just an incredible gold mine of money out there. And that's how I spent my career. And I always was mostly hired by really smart companies that had problems that no other programmer could solve. So they'd bring in the creative, and I'd come in and help them, you know, fix the error in their billing system or find a better way to take orders. I worked for a fleet company for a long time. And so I was doing that innovative stuff, but I was doing it under the umbrella of my employers.
Very cool.
So one day I went to a Tony Robbins seminar. And it was a 3-day, I went to a 1-day thing, and he roped me into his 3-day thing, and I went to the 3-day thing, and I remember being so totally entrenched in this whole entrepreneurial, make your own, forge your own path type thing.
Yeah.
I went back to my job. At the time, I was being paid $125 an hour, and this is like the late 90s, to write software. And I remember telling my boss, look, I don't even want to give you the 2 weeks. I will if you insist, but I'm done here. I am done building your better mousetrap. I got to go build my own. And I don't know where it's going to be, and I don't know how I'm going to survive it, but I know that if I don't pull the trigger right now while I feel real passionately about it, I'm never going to do it. And so I left that company, and I went off, and I ultimately it was almost a lateral move. I became my own company, John Chmela Incorporated, and I started consulting. I still started working for other companies, but now the paychecks were being written to me.
Yep.
To my company, and then I was paying myself what I wanted and putting whatever I wanted back into it. So that was my career from, say, 98 until 2018. And then so we moved in here in 2017. And I remember, so ratchet it back a few years. So one of my inventions, I wonder if there's one around here, was a digital business card. You probably saw it.
Yes, I've experienced. Yes.
And so it was this cool little card. It was it looked like a credit card. This is one. This is actually kind of one. It's got the little clip there. And this one here, I don't even know if it's programmed yet, but the idea is if you touch the card, this one says empty tag, but it'll pop up a micro website with your face and the hot links to call you, email you, go to your website, your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube channel, your LinkedIn, whatever you have on the internet. It's real easy in the back end just to add that button and boop, boop, boop. And so people can take your information by taking their phone and touching the card. And that's cool, right? They add it to their address book. It kind of eliminates the need for a business card.
Absolutely.
But then on the bottom, it says, well, now that you've taken all my digital information and you can load it into your own phone, how about sending it out to your 500 friends on Facebook or all your Snapchat buddies or all your Instagram friends?
The network of networks, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so we added this thing called the share panel on the bottom that would allow you, using a thing called API calls, to instantly post a pre-authored, like, hey, I want you to meet my friend John, or hey, I endorse this restaurant or this salon or this law firm. And so you could instantly parlay the customers that you've attracted with traditional marketing into being marketers for you on their own social media channel. It's like the best form of word of mouth advertising ever, because you're saying, tell your friends. You're like, no, you know what? On second thought, tell all your friends and tell them all right now and do it in my own words, but make it come from you. Yeah, that's what the digital business card was, and it evolved into a thing called the social media mat. Here's an example of a social media mat. This is something you just put on your counter.
Very cool.
And you set your phone on it, and it uses NFC to trigger it, and it's just like the card. And you could also scan a QR code or text with auto response. All the new technology. None of this stuff I built. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm like the high-tech Reese's peanut butter cup guy. I didn't invent the chocolate. I didn't invent the peanut butter, but I sell more chocolate and peanut butter combined than both of you put together. Yeah. Because I packaged it in a way that people like. So, I didn't invent Facebook or Google or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or LinkedIn, and I didn't invent the API calls, and I didn't invent the NFC that triggers it or the QR code. But pieced all together, it makes a pretty cool thing. Yeah. So what ended up happening was. We have currently about 60,000 users of this product. Wow. We didn't sell 60,000 individuals. Sometimes we'd sell a couple, 3,000 of them to a trade show that put one on every exhibitor's table. Or sometimes I'd go in and I'd sell it to a chamber of commerce and they'd buy one for every one of their businesses or an association or an MLM. In fact, that became my forte. It was like, I don't want to sell it to Joe's Restaurant. I want to go to the Nevada Restaurant Association and sell 12,700 of them.
There you go. Right. Yep. Yep.
So anyway, we sold a bunch of these things, and we got to the point where we had more money coming in than we could reasonably spend growing our business. And so we had an accountant that said, you better spend some money, or all the money you made last year, you're going to end up giving Uncle Sam.
Yeah, right.
And so she turned to me.
I think everybody in the garage is listening real close now because we've opened it, right?
So I was like, man, I just want to keep selling this software, man, and keep improving it and keep reinventing it. I mean, I've reinvented it 3 or 4 times. I'll give you a quick example. I made books digital so that when you set your phone on the book, it instantly brings up a micro website that says, listen to the first chapter, order more copies on Amazon, buy the ebook, errors and omissions, go to the click funnel and get this book for free. There's millions of books that are out there, but using the same product, I can now apply it to every author that ever wrote any book in existence, especially new authors, because the minute you buy the book, you become a marketer of the book. Somebody sees you reading this book, and on the front cover, it'll say free book, touch here, and it takes you into their click funnel. And now you get the book, just pay shipping. Or you can listen to the first chapter and see if you'd like to be reading that book, and then order it on Amazon. So it applies to books. It applies to automobiles. It applies to yoga mats. It applies to a lot of different things. And so that was kind of my passion. I'm going to go out and keep putting the internet on stuff instead of putting stuff on the internet and selling it, because all of these ideas are innovative and creative. What happened was, when we needed to spend some money, I said, honey, just go buy like an apartment building and hand it over to some marketing company, and we'll get passive income from those people renting our apartment building. Yep. That's a good way to make passive income. Otherwise, we'd have to she could buy stocks or something, but then we'd have to watch them. I didn't want to watch it. I just wanted to buy it, own it, get my fair share. Even if it's not my fair share, it's still passive income, because I'm making plenty of regular income. So passive income would be great. And she turned to me and she said, what about a horse farm? And I said, what? What about a what? She said, a horse farm. That's passive income. I go, no. That's passive spending. That's
pasture income.
yeah. That's a money pit. That's not a place to get money. And she goes, no, you can really make money. And I go, no, you can't. And she goes, well, you can lease the horse stalls. People will pay you to put their horse in there every month. And I'm like, oh, well, why don't we buy a yacht and we can have people pay us to take a ride on the yacht with us? I'm like, baby, that's not going to work. And she goes, no, seriously, it really can work. And I go, I'm not on board. And then she said, John, now that I'm on the other end of this equation, now that I'm 2 years into it, at the time I didn't realize what a life-changing statement this was that she said. But what she said to me was, John, ever since I was a little girl, 5 years old, my life's dream has always been to own a horse farm. Hmm. And I looked at her and I said, why would you say that to me? I'm a Tony Robbins head. There's no way out now. I can't even argue with that. Now we got to, and by the way, we're living in Las Vegas in this beautiful gated community. I'm the president of the Rotary Club. I'm hanging out with all the casino owners. Everybody in town is using my digital mat. We're the toast of this town, and this town is the coolest town in the world. And now I got to go live in Kentucky? And she's like, well, that's my dream. So I said, all right. And so at that time in our career, we had a little girl, and she was 3 or 4 at the time. And we used to take these 3-month-long vacations. We would hop in our 35-foot motorhome, and we would just leave Vegas on July 1st when it got so hot that it was unbearable. And we would just drive up to Canada, and we'd stay at all these. That was our thing. So that year I said, look, let's just go to Kentucky, and we'll park at the Kentucky Horse Park. And we'll find a realtor and we'll go look at farms. And if we find a farm that you like, then we'll do it. And so I was sort of just going through the motions, which, by the way, for the people in the garage, what you're going to get out of this is sometimes just going through the motions is the way you do it. I listen to these motivational gurus that say, go to the auto dealership and take that Maserati for a drive. And I'm like, oh, that just seems torturous. But no, if you were really going to buy a Maserati, you probably would drive it first. You probably would kick it. You'd probably ask how much it is. You'd probably ask about the interest and the payment plans. And all of a sudden, by putting that stuff in your mind is starting to formulate the to-do list of how you're going to get there. If you're not clear about the end, about what it really costs per month, you just know it's expensive, it's out of my league, but it's a gray area, you're never going to get that Maserati. But if you actually go and do the stuff as if you had the money, then what your brain will say is, okay, you're shy by this much, and your brain will automatically start to disassociate itself from opportunities that don't pay enough to get that, because it knows where it needs to go.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
People go, I can't make any money. I'm like, anybody can make money. If you can speak English, go get a job at McDonald's. But that McDonald's won't pay for the apartment that I want to live in. Oh, okay. Well, how much does it cost for the apartment that you want to live in? You can't know that unless you go and actually start shopping for apartments. So that's what we did. And we came in, we realized that we could probably afford a farm that was about million and a half, real comfortably.
Yep.
So that's what we're looking at. And he showed us farm after farm after farm, and she was circling, oh, I love this. Whoa, this one had a view. And I'm like, that one had a view, but it didn't have a house. Or that one had two houses, and they're both occupied by the tenants in that barn. So we can't move on our own property. We have to go live in an apartment because we own a farm. It's just an investment, but we have to live nearby. And she's like, well, I like it. One had a train track going right through the middle of the 100-acre property. So it's 50 on this side of the tracks, 50 on this side of the tracks. I'm like, how am I going to, my 6-year-old, tell her that there's a train that comes right through my backyard? So we were looking at them, and it's weird. We found one that we liked. It was like $800,000. We told them put the bid in. We went home. We immediately put our house on the market. And the day our house went on the market, that farm sold. So she's like, well, that's it. That's our dream. And I'm like, no, that's not it. You have to keep showing up. Yep. It's a setback. It's a loss. The other team scored one, but the game's not over. We're not dead. So we had to go back to Kentucky. So we went back to Kentucky, and we had him show us around some more, and we looked at some more farms, and finally he showed us them all, and she had liked a few, and I didn't like them all. And I said, dude, it's 2012. Or maybe it was 2015. Anyway, I said, don't you have some farm that's in this community that's just a blood stain on some bed that's from the crash of 2008? And he said, yeah, I have one. And I said, how much is it? And he goes, it's $3 million. And I go, show me that farm. And my wife said, do not show him that farm under any conditions. And I was like, no, we just want to look at it. I want to know what a $3 million farm looks like. We're not going to buy it. Just show it to me. So next thing you know, we're driving up the driveway of the farm that I'm at right now. And it's this long, rolling driveway. And you come up over the hill, and there's this expansive 40-acre lake. And around the lake are all these willow trees. And she gasps. We haven't even looked at the house, the barns. We haven't looked at anything yet. She gasps, and she goes, oh, my God, John, this is the farm that I saw in my dream when I was 5. Like, she actually had a dream, and this farm, this 40-year in the future farm actually was presented to her. So I was like, okay, let's go through this. So we go and we look at it, and I'm looking at this farm, and I'm like, oh my God, I have never in my life seen a house this nice. And I've been to billionaires' houses. I've never seen a house where you look outside and there's a lake that looks like something that a whole community would own, and it's only owned by that one property. And there's 3 barns, and there's 29 pastures, and they all have automatic waterers. I'm like, wow. And it's triple what I can afford. Yeah. So I said, dude, what do we got to do to get this property? What's the lowest the bank will take? He told me a number. I said, all right, put that offer in. And he goes, okay. So I told her, I said, I put an offer in. She's like, what? So I put an offer in. It's clearly this is the farm. And she goes, how in the hell are you going to do this? And I go, I don't know. But let's see what the bank says. Yep. So the bank, they bounced back the offer. We had to pay $100,000 more than what I originally bid. But I said, okay, we'll take it. And then I spent the next 2 years talking to banks, trying to get this property pinned down. And the problem is, garage guys, you're going to love this. I'm an entrepreneur. No matter how much money I make, I pay myself the least amount of money that I can. Yep. So when I pay my taxes, it's like, yeah, all I did was buy shoes and meals and gas. Yep. And that's it, right? So the rest of the money all goes into the company. So my personal taxes look like I'm a shoe shine person. Yep. Or I work at McDonald's. But the money that I actually attract in is much, much greater. And you can see all that money by looking at the books of the business. But when you're buying a house, the bank says, well, send us your personal tax statements for the last 2 years. I'm like, here they go. And they're like, and literally they were laughing at me. I remember one guy going, we got your statement. We saw your stuff. We ran your credit. He goes, your credit's good. Your down payment's good. I had the down. And he goes, but your personal taxes, he goes, there's just nothing there to work with. There's you have nothing. I'm like, no, I have a lot. I've got this big down. And I said, look, you're just checking boxes on a form, dude. I need a human being that can see me for who I am and see so what ended up happening is do you remember the story about Stallone trying to sell Rocky and he had to go to like 69?
Oh, yes. Yes,
I
absolutely.
just kept going to bank after bank after bank. And they wouldn't all give me the same. Sometimes they would say, well, you got to tweak this. Sometimes you got to tweak that. And then I realized that since I'm buying ag property, that that you can actually get cheaper loans if you go through like ag credit services.
Yes.
And the
Yep.
government can give you money. And by the way, the taxes are way lower. And you can make money on the property. And it's not just the horse boarding. It's more than that. And this is really the gist of my new mantra is no longer that I write great technology. My new mantra is that ag property is perhaps the greatest investment in real estate, period. And not only is it the greatest investment in real estate, period, that I equate it to a casino. If I told somebody I bought a casino, they would say, oh, wow,
Yeah.
you're going to make a lot. And I didn't. We went to the bank and we said, look, here's what I make. And I showed them what the connections unstable. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we still, yeah, little, but that's all right.
So when I went to the bank, they said, look, here. So I said, I got them to say, look at the money that I make with my company. I could have paid myself all this money. I paid it to the thing. Use your head, not your forms.
Yeah, yep.
And I got them to kind of go, okay. But then in that same breath, they said, but now you're moving to Kentucky. And I said, yeah, you're right. I am moving to Kentucky. And the tech company is going to take a hit because I'm doing everything out of here and all my employees are here. They're not all coming with me. I'm going to run a farm. So in reality, if you want to get paid, if you want to get paid back on this loan, you really need to look at what I'm going to make. And since I'm going to do a completely different job, you want a loan on my future projections, not on my past earnings. Because I'm telling you right now, while those past earnings may be enough, it's all going away. It won't be enough to pay even the first mortgage payment. You have to look at the future. Here's my projections. And my projections for horse boarding and bed and breakfast in the house was like just enough to pay this 5-figure multiple times over note.
Yep.
And I was like, we need more. So I started looking for other ways to make money, and I'm Googling and stuff. And somewhere along the line, it came to my attention that you can make money on a farm if you host weddings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I contacted a woman that does weddings, and I said, how much money do you make on a wedding? She goes, well, I do weddings all over the bluegrass of Kentucky. I typically charge between $5,000 and $10,000 a wedding. I do about 60 weddings a year. And she goes, and I typically take about half. I typically take about half the money. So I'm like, 7,500 times 60. I did the math. I'm like, this woman's making a fortune. Oh, I said, would you be interested in seeing a new venue in town? And she goes, yeah. So I called the realtor back. I said, look, I'm flying from Vegas into Kentucky. I'm coming to look at the property with a friend of mine. But I was really bringing that wedding lady. And I walked her around the property, and she goes, John, I've never in my entire life saw a property so perfect for weddings. It's just, there's water everywhere because the lake is like a star. So all the barns and the houses are all out on peninsulas, and water completely surrounds it. I'll show you a little piece of that. You can see that from here. Can you see out that window? Can you see the lake?
Not really. You can get, look, the blinds are there, but yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's a giant lake. I mean,
What I'll include for the Greatness Garagers, I'll include a picture of the farm.
Okay. Yeah, it reminds me of like Lake Mead. If you've been to Vegas, it's not as big as Lake Mead, but it looks like that. So it's just spectacular. So she said, I would love to do weddings here. This is. So I said, how would you like it if I made you the exclusive wedding planner for this property? Which means if anybody comes to me and says they want to do weddings here, I will direct them to you. And she goes, oh my God, who do I have to sleep with for that? And I go, nobody. All you have to do is be exclusive to me. If somebody comes to you and says they want to do a wedding, and apparently 60 people a year are doing that, you have to tell them that you can't do it over at the winery, or you can't do it over at the Equus Run, or you can't do it at the Hilton. You got to do it at Queens Lake. All your weddings have to be done here. And she goes, okay, all right, I'll make that deal. So I went back. Now that, mind you, I haven't even gotten funded, or I've gotten approved to buy the property, but I don't even have funding yet. And here I am showing a wedding planner as if it's my property. So she says, yeah, I'm in. So I write a contract with her that says, assuming I can provide you access to this property starting in some date like 6 months off, you will guarantee me 50 weddings in a year. And you will sell those weddings for $8,000 a pop, and you will pay me 4 of that 8, which means I'll be making $200,000 passively. And she goes, done. So, but it would also mean she's going to make $200,000.
Right.
So I call my buddy in Vegas, this guy named John Hefty. There's a whole LinkedIn article about this. And I said, dude, I think I just bought a big ass horse farm. And I think I just got my entire nut paid by some other lady that's going to give me 200 grand a year passively. And he goes, how? And I explained the whole story. And he goes, oh, yeah, like a casino. And I go, no, John, not get your head out of Vegas. Listen to me. I bought a horse farm. And he goes, yeah, I heard you. You bought a horse farm. You bought a big piece of property. And you got this woman that came and said she wants to use a little piece of your property to run her business. And for that, she's going to pay you money every month. And I go, yeah, that's right. And he goes, John, how do you think Steve Wynn makes his money? And I go, he owns the casino. What do you mean? And he goes, no. Do you think he wakes up every morning and drives to the Wynn and he goes in and he asks people how they're winning or losing and goes into the restaurant and asks them if they're enjoying their meal or how they slept last night? Do you think he's, checking the show bill to make sure that they're doing the right shows? Do you think he's doing any of that? And I go, I don't know, maybe some of it. And he goes, he's not doing any of it. He's not even there. He's off building another casino somewhere or off traveling the world. He's not there. He doesn't do anything on those things. What he does is he builds a big piece of real estate called a casino, and then he sits back and he listens to pitches from entrepreneurs just like your wedding lady. And then if he likes it, he does it. And if they pay him, great. If they don't, they're out. Somebody else gets that spot. But he's got lots and lots of real estate, which is why he has a Ferrari dealership and a gaming house and a hotel and 25 restaurants and gift shops and all this stuff, because he's got lots of real estate. You have lots of real estate, and you're allowing, one barn and one arena to be used by this lady, but you've got all this acreage. He goes, how many businesses are you planning to run? And I go, well, I puff out my chest. I'm all proud. I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, 3. I'm going to do horse boarding. I'm going to have the bed and breakfast at the house, and I'm going to do weddings. And he goes, 3, huh? I go, yeah. He goes, how big is that property? I go, 140 acres. He goes, that's bigger than the Wynn and the Encore. You should do 50. And I remember just being silenced, like, holy cow. And it was the first time that I ever thought of a farm as a casino.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what else could I do here? And, my computer brain that writes software that turns business cards into digital phone-enabled things started going, well, what else could you do? In the lake, I suppose I could raise sturgeon. They cost $50 a piece, but if they sit in there for 50 years, I can sell the caviar for 15 grand. I could do boat races. I could do a fishing club. It's the best fishing in Kentucky here. I could sell photography permits for people to come and take their graduation or their pictures here. So what I did was I started up these other businesses. So I do have a fishing club. You pay me $500. You can come on my property anytime you want. You can fish in that lake, and you re-up it every year. And there's a bunch of rules that say you can only come during these times. And the guy that came to me with this idea, he owns a bait shop. I said, listen, I'll do it. I'll take the money. You and your friends at the bait shop can buy memberships. All memberships have to go through you. So he's my wedding lady, but he's my fishing guy.
Nice. Yeah.
People come here and say, hey, I heard you have a fishing club. I go to the bait shop. So he vets them. He comes to me. He gives me the whole 500. He doesn't even take half. He just wanted the rights to be able to fish here.
Right.
So a club over there. I had a barn that we had some lady. She left and she went to this one barn. She told all my people, hey, I'm the trainer here. I'm leaving. If you want, you can leave with me and I'll give you a discount at this farm right down the road. John and Claire, they don't really know what they're doing when it comes to horses. So your horse won't get fed or anything. You really need to come with me. And much to our surprise, we got notice from like 9 boarders all at once, and it emptied the barn. It's like 12 grand a month. Just disappeared from my pockets because this woman did unethical solicitation. So I was like, we got to scramble. They all give 30 days notice. I got 30 days to fill that barn. So I could do what we did before, but it took us like 6 months to fill a barn. So I went to my buddy who owns a distillery, and I go, dude, you own this distillery right here in downtown Georgetown, but Woodford Reserve has this huge plot of like 200 acres where they have their storage facility, and you're just in the storefront. I said, you need to step up and be like the guys at Woodford Reserve. You should take your operation and move it over to Queens Lake, which is the name of our farm. And you should store in our barn, and you should have your tastings right there in our barn, and you should have your bourbon tours right on our farm. And to do that, I'll need $6 grand a month, which is double what I was getting for that barn.
Yep.
But he's now taking on additional property. He's taking on pasture space that he can do his stuff. And so if he agrees to this, and I said, and I want my own bourbon, Queens Lake bourbon, and I want a piece of that action. And so he said, done, done, and done. And so he signed a check to come on board. He hasn't taken over the barn yet. There's still horses in that barn, but down the road, the weddings people are liking that there's bourbon in that barn instead of horses. So it's just another way that we can make money on this property. And so what I did was I said, man, there's a play here to not only help. I mean, we're now at the point that we have more money coming in than money going out. So my play is that most people think that farms are a losing proposition. And I know from a sampling of one single experience, that you can take a property that you can't even really afford and you can turn it into such a money machine that not only are you growing millions in equity, but you're growing millions in passive income because you're allowing other people to step onto your farm casino, make money for you and make money for them. It's just a brilliant concept. So I started writing a book called Ag Millionaire. And over the last 2 years, I started quantifying, cataloging every idea I thought of. I mean, there's just gazillions of them. The guy across the street has an antenna from Verizon that he gets paid like $9,000 a month for.
Oh, yeah.
It's 20 by 20 part of his farm. But you can do the same thing with solar panels or windmills. You can open it up and make it a city park. You can sell it into it, make it a neighborhood. You could make it a cemetery. You could make it a racetrack. You can make it a polo field. There's just so many things that you can do. I have bridal shows coming in here twice a year, and they're going to have booths all the way around the lake. It's going to be the best bridal show. And all of these different entrepreneurs that are coming to me with their plans and executing on those plans are all getting an exit. Because I'm just like, yeah, I got to fill this casino, man. I got to fill this casino. Well, that's kind of my thing. So my focus is now my book and cataloging all this and showing people that it can work, and then taking this out to other people that are either real estate investors or people that already own farms and saying, look, your farm is worth more than you think.
Well, John, that's the thing. Like, as I'm listening here, one of the things I love is not just a way to, like you said, kind of think outside the box and flip the ag perspective on it, but the way in which my mind just starts exploding on all the different areas with which the way we receive, we review our property, our space, our entity. You look like if you have a retail store, and you start reaching out to other entrepreneurs that are going to push their energy, and you're going to use their network and their energy to help drive it to your location. I mean, it's just
that's exactly right.
Such a beautiful concept.
Yeah, and so I was thinking that's really the passive income stream. I mean, if I come here and I say, yeah, I'm my own boss, but I have to work, I have to muck the stalls, and I got to make the beds and cook the breakfast and be there to let them in when they have a wedding, then all I did was make myself my own boss. It's not really passive income. I'm still working every wedding I'm making a dime for. Unless somebody else is doing it and they're getting paid and I'm getting paid, but I'm not doing anything. I got paid when I sold it a long time ago. Then it's passive income. And the only way, there's a couple of ways you can make passive income. One is own a lot of real estate, own a casino, own a mall, own a farm, where you can have lots of people doing business, adjacent to each other. Those are great ways to get passive income if you use it in that way, where you tell other people, hey, look, I own the property. That's my contribution, not my time, my space. So if you have space, the only other way is if you have lots and lots of money, then you could be like Shark Tank.
Right.
They get passive income from every business they invest in. They're not giving them the place to do it, but they are saying, here's $75,000, I want 25%. So they're giving cash to do it, but they're going to use that cash to pay some other guy like me to give them the space to do it.
Yeah.
And so there's really a whole dynamic of, okay, everybody loves the idea of passive income, but how do you really get passive income? And that's kind of my focus these days.
Oh, well, you know what? That is just amazing. There's so many nuggets in there, and I love the way the process through. And I think for the Greatness Garage, I think just listening, for them to listen on how they can think themselves. One of the things we talk about is about delegation, how to properly do that. And, a lot of times I talk with my clients inside their business, how to delegate to create freedom for themselves.
Right.
But when you're looking at this, you're talking about creating freedom of the business as well. And I think on what's so profound here is if they truly understand this and embrace it, it's the framing that you think of it versus saying, hey, because like you said, if I run the farm, my labor, I get up at 4, I get up at the butt crack of dawn and I go, I put my head on the pillow late into the night. There's still only so much you could do. But
That's
now
right.
it all of a sudden time becomes the unconstrained. And if time becomes an unconstrained, whoa, right? And that's what we all complain about. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time.
Right.
And, whether it's delegation to employees or delegation to other entrepreneurs, what a phenomenal thing, So
It's really cool. It's a really cool, and it's a concept that not ever, in all the years that I've been following Tony and Landmark and all these other things, nobody really told me, hey, here's an idea. I mean, they tell me how to invest my money and they tell me, how to take care of my body, but nobody really said, here's a blueprint to passive income. And it really comes down to business friendships. If you can create business friendships and you can provide value to them, and one of the ways that you can provide value to them is give them the space with which they can allow their creative juices to flow. And that's what I'm doing. And while I'm the one that's sitting here trying to think up ways that people can do it, sometimes they just come to me. The fishing guy came to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm open to that. It's cool stuff.
We love your great thinking. That's awesome. Well,
how are we doing on time?
We're doing pretty good. We're getting close to the end here. So what I think would be good is let's kind of go quickly through the Power 7 and just kind of get some insight. I know there's some nuggets there. And let's wrap up in the next 10 minutes here. How's that sound?
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right. Awesome. So let's start with the first one. What is something profound that you hope someone someday says about you or your business?
Well, the profound thing that I'm settling on at this particular juncture in my life is the fact that there's so much farmland in the United States. There's so much farmland around the country. And people avoid it like the plague because they think it's got to be a labor of love. You got to love crops or livestock to get into farm. And it's a lot of work, and you're probably going to be broke, and the government's going to have to bail you out. And while that is true, while you can make money in crops and in livestock, you can make it in 250 different ways. And you can also make money in other ways, like the guy across the street that has the power antenna. And if you know all the ways that you can make money on a farm, you can get several streams of income. It'll take you out of that. I'm below water. There's a big thing in farms that I'm land rich, but I'm cash poor.
Yep.
I want people to go, you know what? Johnny came along. He bought this farm. He showed farmers that you could be land rich and cash rich.
Yeah.
Because they were underutilizing the value of what they had. They just didn't realize what they had.
Because you're land rich, you could be cash rich, right? Exactly. Yeah, that's
right.
Good.
Yeah.
So on that one, let me ask one quick. So the big element here, I think the big elephant in the room here is, jokingly, you got balls the size of Montana, right? You approach risk much differently than a lot of people approach risk. You approach it, for myself, I'm an analytic, right? And so I find myself sometimes approaching stuff risk adverse. And I hedge, should I, and a lot of us get to that point where we're looking over that precipice, should I jump? What has been your secret to jump?
Oh man, this goes back to my whole personal development days. It was back when, when my first Tony Robbins thing back in '95, he had us walking on coals within 3 hours of showing up at the seminar. And I remember him saying, was this something you thought you couldn't do? And I was like, yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to walk across coals without whining like a little baby. And I did it, and I celebrated and wiped my feet. It was awesome. And he goes, I wonder what else you're afraid to do, because you think you can't, or you think you'll get hurt, that if you just stepped into it, like you stepped into that coal. So then I went through a period of time where I was stepping out of airplanes with a parachute on. I was stepping onto a stage for public speaking. I was starting charities when I never really thought I was good enough to be the guy or to be somebody that could contribute to the community. I started approaching women that I thought were out of my league, only to find that it was literally just that first step, and then the fear, the approach avoidance went away.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing that got me to go, if you can think, here's, and I wrote this in your little journal. Here's the thing. The big secret that I've learned over my 58 years on this earth is what you want, dream big and show up.
Yeah.
The only way to kill your dream is to somewhere along the path. You might show up and say, all right, I'm gonna start. But at some point you say, I'm out. And that's what killed it.
Yep.
You're the only one that can kill it. People can intervene. The banks can say you're a joke. I'm not going to give you the money. The neighbors can say we don't want you to do weddings here, and we're going to stop you at the Board of Adjusters. And you just keep showing up and showing up and showing up. And sure enough, if you outshow them, if you outshow up them, you're going to get it. So it doesn't take balls per se. What it takes is persistence.
Yeah.
Show up. Wake up every day, even when you think it's not going to happen. Put on that suit like it is going to happen and show up. And if it fails, do it again the next day. That's the big secret.
Very cool. I love that. That's a huge one. Yeah. Whew. So in taking, these risks and really just showing up, what is the greatest mistake you ever made in business, and how did it impact or change you?
Mistake. I think this plays into the same thing, the idea of giving up, the idea of of thinking less of yourself. Another big mistake is trying to do things yourself. There's pretty faulty mindsets out there. Like if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Ah, yes.
Like, man, you really don't want to you want to get to the point. You really need to set it on your radar that at some point you want to get to the point that you're doing nothing yourself.
Yeah.
That's passive income. So if you want to do it right, do it yourself. You've just completely disqualified yourself from being any kind of a successful passive income entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to find a way to train other people to do it for you. And, you see that everywhere. And it's not even a secret anymore. It probably was up until about 10 years ago. But now, how much of Facebook do you think Zuck does?
Right.
Driving around doing television interviews. He doesn't know what they're talking about in this podium room. He's hired the right people to do it.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, as you wish, because that's kind of the thought of this farm.
Yeah.
So a lot of times she'll ask me to do something. I'll just go as you wish. So because really this farm is for her. And I know that when she told me that this was her dream, I tell people a lot of times, well, prior to that, 10 years prior when we got married, she was my dream. This is her dream. So I'm really living in my dream's dream.
There you go. That's good.
Got this whole Princess Bride thing going. I'll give you a pretty funny story because I know we're wrapping up. She likes to give the bridal tours. So a bride comes on property. She likes to throw them in a golf cart or a club car, and she drives them around the property, shows them all the different wedding locations and her little flower gardens. I mean, it's just all Martha Stewart beautiful. It's just world. But one day she came to me and she said to me, she said, John, I've got a wedding tour at 11, but I'm at the vet or something, getting something taken care of. I need you to do the wedding tour. And I'm like, no problem. I can do it. And she goes, but I'll be there late. I'll be there about 11:15, 11:20. So I'm doing, I show her the wedding barn, and then I take them around and I show them the arena, and we're meeting horses. And we're just sitting there talking outside one of our horse arenas. And all of a sudden I look out and I can see driving along the lake is my wife is driving up the driveway. And so I turn to these 3 or 4 people that are looking to get married here, and I go, oh my God, that's astonishing. And they go, what? And I go, I think the queen is coming. They go, what? And I go, yeah, that's the queen. She's coming here. And so I turn to them and I go, would you guys like to meet the queen? And you could see them all just like, they're like looking at each other, like, how do we answer? And they're straightening up and they're tucking in their skirts and like, well, of course. And I'm like, okay, great. And she, Claire comes up. She's oblivious to the fact that I'm doing this. She goes and she meets with a few people, and they must have said, oh, John's out there by the arena. So she comes walking out and she's like, hi, I'm Claire. And so they reach out her hand. The first girl takes her hand, grabs her hand, and holds it with 2 hands. And she goes, what an honor it is to meet you. And then she goes, well, thank you. And she goes, well, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you too. And the other girl goes, oh my God, the pleasure is all ours. And she like does a little curtsy. And I realize these people think that it's Meghan Markle standing here. Right. And so it started to dawn on me, well, wait a minute. How does somebody actually become a queen? Like if you look at you look at the Queen of England, but more close to home is this Frozen, this Arendelle thing. Yeah. Right. And the 2 girls, they're queen because they own that property. Yeah. And I'm like, we own this property, and it's arguably about this. And I'm like, we just decide who is queen and who is not queen. So another advantage, besides all the money-making things, is when you buy a farm, you become royalty. And another cool example, we have a gazebo out here. We had dinner for some guys that were, the bourbon guys. They came, I had dinner at the gazebo at the lake. And we're all sitting down, and Claire's, of course, the last to come out. And so we're all sitting there, and I'm like, well, let's wait for Claire before we start eating. And the next thing you know, she comes out, and she's walking across the lawn. And I don't know how I thought of this, but when she got about 10 steps away, I just stood up and I go, all rise, the queen is approaching. And these people don't even know me. All 6 of them just stood up and waited for her to come. And I pulled out her chair and she sat down. And as soon as she sat down, we all sat down. And I realized, my God, I'm living in a royalty place that I have built and I have declared. And I declared it without even letting the queen know. Like when I did that thing at the arena, she looked at me like, what did you say to these people? She didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm establishing ourselves as royalty on this farm.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So what is one thing you would tell the starting out version of yourself, and how do you think it would have changed your life?
Oh, the starting out version. Well, I probably would have said, drinking is fun, partner, but it's not the only thing that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read my thing, but I'm a August 11th, 27 years clean and sober. But I like to party a lot in my 20s.
Yeah.
And, those would have been a really good time to get my businesses started. Nothing happened when I was drinking. I had nothing but pie in the sky notions and took no action. Took one job after the other, lasted a year or two. Sometimes I got fired. Sometimes I walked out. But I wasn't living my dream. I was certainly at the mercy of other people's dreams. And all I wanted to do was just party and have fun. So I might try to explain to myself, hey, look, I'm all about having fun. But the method that you're choosing to have fun is not the way to have the most fun.
Yeah.
It's just a way to have a little bit of fun. But you can have a lot more fun if you follow this path. And it'd be nice if I could show them a couple of snapshots from 10 years later.
There you go, right? Yeah.
When things really start to go south and I had to quit and seek help to quit. But I would probably tell them to don't sow your wild oats so much. And then, it wasn't within 1 year of me quitting drinking. I quit in 92 and I was at my first Tony Robbins thing in 3 years. So I was into personal development. I was running marathons. I was starting to get that entrepreneurial bug right away. And this was in my early 30s. So if I had done that in my teens, instead of being a 58-year-old royalty farm owner, I'd be a 45-year-old royalty farm owner.
Amen. So I think this probably leads in nice to the next one then. It says, what is one thing that you did that hurt but are absolutely love that you did it?
As much as I talk about passive income, when we bought this place, it had been neglected for 6 years. The weeds were just 5 feet high. The fences were all broken, and there's like 40 miles of fence.
Oh my.
All the barns had raccoons living in the rafters, birds living up in the insulation. There was just everything. So eyes open to eyes closed for about 8 months. Me and my wife woke up every day and we were either digging or power washing. Showing up and doing work just so that we could sell the first stall to the first horse or the first room of the bed and breakfast. 8 months. And I used to compare myself to Otto Wembier. Remember Otto Wembier?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it must have been so hard to have to wake up by these people speaking North Korean and getting whipped and beaten and work all day, and all you do is sleep and wake up and do it again. I was like, I bet this is what it was like for him.
Yeah.
And so it was hard, but at the same time, to be 58 and be able to even do hard work is a blessing. Yeah. So I don't shy away from the hard work. I prefer to do hard work for free. That's going to build a passive income down the road, as opposed to having somebody else say, swing this sledge and I'll give you $12 an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. So, in looking at all the stuff in challenge, like business wise and even personal wise, I think it's probably good to talk. How close were you to giving up, and what got you there? And then what got you back?
So, I don't give up anymore because it's my mantra not to, but I guess I'm gonna cop to, when we were doing the farm, we needed to have the weddings to get the money because we showed them our future business plan.
Yeah.
It was horse boarding, bed and breakfast, and weddings. And they said, hire this lawyer. He'll go in to the board of adjusters and he'll get your ag zone property approved for weddings. And we paid him the money. It was like $1,500. And he called us and he goes, John, I got hit with a lot of resistance at the board of adjusters. I had 15 neighbors there and they all said no. And I got a continuance. They want you to run a traffic study because they feel that the weddings are going to cause traffic jam on the road out in front, and they want you to run a noise study because they feel that your weddings are going to be too loud for the neighbors. And I said, okay. So I ran those 2 studies, which was another 10, 15 grand.
Yeah.
And I said, and he said, you want me to argue this for you? I'm not going to win. I'm telling you, these neighbors are bad. I go, no. I'll do it.
There you go.
I flew in to Georgetown. Actually, I flew into like Cincinnati and I drove to Georgetown, and I got here and I came into the courtroom and I had my ducks in a row, and I looked around and there was a lot of people there, and it was all for my case. And I got up and I said, look, we're entrepreneurs. We're living here. We're going to make this farm. We're going to do these things. And here's our traffic study, which says that the traffic is fine as long as they come in that gate. We will require them to come in that gate. And anyway, the neighbors got up and the neighbors got up and I got up and the neighbors got up. But the end result was there were 5 judges on the panel. And it was just one guy arguing this side, and there were 15 people arguing the other side. And they were arguing everything like, he's from Vegas, he's going to be blowing off fireworks, and he's going to be having hookers, and he's going to be urinating on the property, and people are going to be wandering onto my property with guns, and I'm going to shoot them. And it was crazy what they proposed. But in the end, it came down to 3 judges, and I needed 2. And one said, I vote that we approve it, and we needed a second, and we didn't get a second. And so now I'm the one that my wife had said it 100 times, John, this is pie in the sky. You had 27 banks say no. You really think the 28th bank is going to say yes? I go, no, I think the 64th bank is going to say yes. But I remember calling her up and going, baby, I don't know what to tell you, but this deal did not happen. They shot us down. And I go, and it's worse. It's not just losing the weddings. The loan is contingent. And they're going to know this, so they're going to pull their loan back. And so, and she goes, just come home. And I said, all right. So I went and I got in an airport and I flew back to Vegas and I landed at midnight and I took an Uber and I get home and I come into the house and there's all this activity going on. Say hi, baby.
Hi, sweetie.
So hang on, let me finish this story, baby. So there's all this activity going on upstairs. So I'm like, hello, and I hear my wife go, John, and I go, yeah, and she goes, hi, welcome home, and I go, what are you doing at 2:00 in the morning? And she goes, I'm packing. And I go, packing for what? And she goes, for Georgetown. I go, am I in the twilight zone? Did I not call you after the courtroom? Do you not remember what I just said? We lost the weddings. We lost the loan. We don't have the farm. Yeah. And she goes, you'll figure it out.
That's awesome.
That was it. And I realized that I'm not just carrying her when she's down. If I collapse, he'll find a way to say, you got it. So what we did was, she said, go to bed. We'll wake up in the morning. So what we did was we woke up in the morning. She said, pull up the spreadsheet. She said, see the tab that says weddings? Delete it. See what the numbers come to. And I go, okay. She goes, now we add a new tab. She goes, dream something up. I go, I don't know. What can you do on this one? I go, you can do training, lessons, pony rides, add them all in. Trying to figure out how many, just do the numbers, call people. So I spent the whole day figuring out how much people make for lessons, and I put that in. Sent it back to the same bank. I said, the weddings got shut down by the Board of Adjusters. We're doing horse riding, which doesn't even need the Board of Adjusters approval. The numbers are the same. Do you approve the loan? They go, yeah. So we moved here on faith. We were going to get the weddings because we don't know how to train horses.
Yeah, right.
And we went back a couple of times, and that's a whole nother interview. We got the moved, and that's a better story than the whole farm.
Amen.
It's a really funny story.
So this has been absolutely amazing. And so one thing, thank you so much, John, for all you've given us. And one thing I would like to ask is, this is one of my favorite ones, is, and I think you've kind of given, there's so many nuggets in there, so maybe pulling one out, but parting words of wisdom, insights, or encouragement for the Greatness Garagers as they go forward.
So Greatness Garagers, you live all over the United States, I'm guessing. Sometimes you travel from some east to west. Sometimes you travel from north to south. You're going from Minnesota to Florida. You're going to New York to San Diego. There exists a place, a very magical and royal place in the middle of the country, in the heart of the bluegrass. The best place in the world to watch the Kentucky Derby, or to take the Bourbon Tour, or to see Noah's Ark, which is built 20 minutes from here. And it's called Queens Lake.
I love it.
And it's got a bed and breakfast. And if you're traveling with a horse, you can bring your horse too. And if you're traveling with 17 dogs, bring them onto the property. We don't care. We just love meeting people. And the people that I've met since I've done this, since I've taken on this farm, has been the absolute greatest joy of all. It's amazing the people that you meet when you have a really super high-end Airbnb, bed and breakfast, we're on Expedia, we're on bedandbreakfast.com, we're on all those. And the people that come here, the owners of business, celebrities come here. The guy that's the official photographer for Churchill Downs comes here and photographed our farm. So my advice to you is, if you're interested in this story or interested in ag property or just interested in seeing a really, really beautiful place right in the country, come to Garage, and we'll talk some more about it, and we'll have some fun at the same time. Maybe catch a couple of bass.
I like it. So what I'll have you do, John, is we'll have you include the information. Well, I'll send a link out to all the Greatness Garages of a link to Queens Lake, as well as kind of your working title for the book, so they can keep an eye out for it. And we'll definitely be sharing it out, because I think you have just a wealth of knowledge, and thank you so much for sharing all that with us today.
Thanks for having me on, friend. It's good to see you. The last time I saw you was at the Fearless Life Experience, right?
Yes, with Peter Scott. Yes, absolutely. It's been great things. And so, you know what? Thank you again so much. Greatness Garagers, this was a nugget. I hope you got a ton of value out of this. And please, share with other people. You can't share in the garage, but let other people know that this video is here, because it's worth the time. Absolutely. So thank you again, John. We all have a great one, and aloha, and keep going.
Right on, brother.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed the interview today and found value that you can implement in your business immediately. Remember, action is what makes this information all worth it. If you need help figuring out what that action is, go to callwithbrad.com and we'll get some clarity and help you figure out what that should be.